Hey, what's up, guys? Thank y'all for tapping in. I appreciate you guys for staying down with me, and we're gonna keep this thing rolling and moving. Man, yesterday I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I had to be to work by like by 9. I'm sorry, I had to be to work by 9. We worked all the way until 3 o'clock. I had to come home, grab my little baby so that my wife can go and make her day. And I had the baby till about 9 o'clock. Um, so, and then we right back up again. It's like 5 in the morning now, and we got to be to work at 7. So that's a continuous schedule. Not to mention I got other stuff to do, right? So I'm gonna try my best to keep putting this stuff out for you guys, and we'll just see how it go. But I want to tell you guys about the time that I ended up in the hole for masturbation. This was my first and last time. It only took me one time to get it. And keep in mind, this happened in 2002. So this is over 20 years ago. So these are things I'm trying to pull from my memory. And the reason for this is because, I'm a big Bill Feasy fan. Shout out Bill Feasy. I'm a big Joe Baker fan. Shout out Joe Baker. I like the way the guys tell their stories and relay the messages across. Here's the thing though, I love the stories, and the reason why I'm so intrigued with the stories is because it's something that I'm very, very familiar with. It's a life that I come from. So it interests me. And the only thing is, man, when these guys tell these stories, I'm gonna be honest with you. They scare me. They scare me. Bill Feasy has seen more death and more people get stabbed and victimized in prison. I mean, I know that things change, but I honestly want to say it was not like that when I was there. So we had these things. We had what was called beaters. Beaters were short for bitch beaters, right? That's what we called our gloves. Everybody, most people there had a pair of gloves, especially if you were a fighter. Your gloves were your weapon, right? If two people got into an argument and one person went in his back pocket, it was to pull out his gloves. The gloves were your weapon. It was like when you pull the gloves on, it's action time. Everybody knew that. So that was like it was our thing. It was our claim to, it was championship. It was everybody knew. If you dropped your gloves, if you didn't have your gloves, somebody took your gloves. Take your gloves out your pocket. That means, you don't belong on this gladiator floor with us. You don't belong in this arena. You see what I'm saying? So I've never seen anyone get knifed up. I've never seen anyone I did 10 years. I've never seen anyone get stabbed up, poked up real bad by two or three people. I just never seen that. When in my era, we used to brag on how bad we could beat a person with the hands. I sent one person to a hospital with the hands. We used to call it put them on out count. So the out count is so in prison you got what you call out count time. So like we're gonna say 6 in the morning, they come around and do count time. From 6 in the morning to we're gonna say like 8 in the morning, people are doing stuff like going to outside detail. That's when if you ever see inmates on the side of the road cutting grass and doing stuff like that, working at city buildings, libraries, and town halls and stuff like that, it's inmates because those are the inmates with low charges, low times, and they can be trusted to go out into the world, perform their duties, and come back because they don't have time. If you only have 18 months, why would you run and risk getting 5 years? When you look up, your time will be done. So or the out count is the inmates that are on the count but not on the facility. They outside working, so they on the outside count. Everybody in the prison is on the inside count. People outside working, that's the outside count. So when you hurt someone and they have to go to the hospital, they still an inmate and a ward of the state. They just at the hospital where they can get better care. So when you beat somebody up and send them to the hospital, what we say is, I put them on the out count. The guy that I put on the out count name was C Murder. It's been a long time, so trying to figure this out is probably futile. I put C Murder on the out count, and he asked to fight me, right? So that was our bragging rights, our claim to fame. You know what I mean? That's how you. But listen, I put him on the out count. Y'all want to play? I'm gonna put your ass on the out count. That means I'm sending you to the hospital. Okay, so we done got over what count time is. So at count time again, there was violence, but it wasn't that kind of violence. You didn't see people getting stabbed every day. You didn't see people dying every day. Most people, if you had a release date, you would make it to your release date. And I'm starting to think that maybe I was just too young and too wild to actually perceive the danger I was in or what was going on, because some of these stories that these guys tell, I'm not saying they unbelievable, it's just it wasn't like that when I was there. First of all, the gangs were new to Georgia 20 years ago. They were not heavy in the penal system at all. They definitely weren't running things. And then when there were gangs, there was no structure. So you didn't have to worry about, I've never seen someone turn down a fade because they worried that they get repercussions from the gang. See, all this kind of stuff is new to me, so it also intrigues me. Anyway, so I got locked up at 14 and I received 10 years. I think I was one of the youngest inmates in the jail system at that time, in the penal system at that time. And the only place that they have for the small inmates to go for diagnostic is Lee Arrendale State Prison, which is Alto. Diagnostic is it's actually not orientation. I was about to say it's like orientation, but it's kind of like orientation, but it's diagnostic so it's your entry. When you come into prison, you're gonna go through diagnostics. It's gonna take you about a week, maybe 2 weeks. It's just getting classified. They're gonna see if you violent or not. They're gonna see how much time you have, whether you can be trusted out the gate, whether you can be trusted with a detail at all, whether you need to go straight to the hole. So this was diagnostics. They just pretty much placing you. Alto was the only place that had diagnostic for juveniles. I think Coastal has diagnostic, and I think Jackson State Prison has diagnostic. But if you were a juvenile, if you were young, the only place you were going was Alto, right? And I went to Alto on my 17th birthday, but I had been locked up since I was 14. So by the time that I had got to Alto, I had already been locked up going on 3 years, and I'm pretty much prepared for it. I've heard all the stories. I've heard all the tales. One of my homeboys actually went down there, and they say he got taken advantage of. So, I'm already hearing the stories. Then I'm light skinned. I got green eyes. I'm already scared and nervous. And I'm determined not to be a victim, but I'm also afraid. Right? So we go down now. When I get to Alto, to my relief, when I get to they had what you call extended juvenile dorm. Only place I've ever heard it, which meant so when you're 17, you're considered an adult, but in prison, when you're 17, you're still a juvenile, even though you can be with adults if You're not 18, so by law, you're not legal. And if anything happened to you, they can be held responsible. So what they did was a couple of the juveniles had then got in trouble before or got into fights and got hurt with the older inmates. And so they made a 17-year-old dorm. If you were younger than 17, you were in juvenile, real juvenile. You could not associate with adult inmates at all. As a matter of fact, their stripes were different. They had white uniforms. We have white uniforms with a blue stripe going down the side. Juveniles had white uniform with a brown stripe going down the side. You could not interact with them at all. When you turn 17, you come to extended juvenile, you get your blue stripe. You have to stay in there for a year. When you turn 18, you go across the yard. Across the yard is where all the big folks at, right? So I get there, I'm kind of nervous, and I come to find out, I go through diagnostic and they put me in a dorm with the 17-year-old. Come to find out, it's my people making all the noise. I'm talking about, man, they causing ruckus. They raising hell. They fighting. Everything going on inside C15. That's what we were, 17-year-old dorm. I mean, C16, I'm sorry. Doing that not raping, no raping. Robbing, fighting, jacking, stealing. We had a big old ride with the white boys down in the trailer park. We named our rooms. So when I came in, we were in an open dorm, but even the open dorms had rooms split off like a college dorm. And the room way in the back, all of the white boys were down there, and we called that the trailer park. I was assigned to a room called the Palace. It was real clean. Everybody was in there, was kind of player, and that's where you wanted to go to chill. You can get a good sleep. All my partners were in the dungeon. Now, the dungeon is where it go down. They ain't never sleeping, tattoos running, might be a fade going. The lights are never off. They ain't never, if you wanted to go to sleep, you would have to come over to the Palace and chill. So I get down there, and it's all my people that's making all the ruckus, making all the noise, right? And as I'm down there, I'm tuning in, I'm seeing what's going on, what. They give me these rules. I'm going to get to the story. I'm going to get to that. But I get the rules, what the do's and the don'ts and this and that. And then before I know it, I start seeing guys masturbating. They jacking off. But they had what you call kits. A kit was anything like this highlighter, right? This highlighter could be, it could just fit in your pocket, or if you had on a shirt, our shirts had pockets on them, you could put the pen in your pocket, right? Boom. So a kit is, you can't just walk around with lubrication, lotion and grease and stuff that we use to masturbate. So it's something normal like this. You would take some lotion or some grease. This might actually be nothing or cut out. Pack it with the lotion, pack it with the grease, and then now you got a kit, right? So this your kit. So when you catch a female, when you catch her slipping, you might catch her not paying attention, or, basically that's what it is. We used to call it squirreling. So a squirrel is when you get somebody when they not looking. It was mostly related to fighting, right? So if you say somebody squirrel me, they got different names now. They are crazy. If you say he squirreled me, that means, if I'm walking, paying attention to my guys, talking to my guys, somebody came, hit me in the head from the side, boom. Damn, he squirreled me. You know what I mean? I don't really got no chance to get back. You wanna make sure you're gonna win the fight. You squirrel somebody. There were no rules in penitentiary. So if you squirrel a guard, that means you got off on her before she noticed what was going on. So if she's over here talking to an officer, or if she's bent over some desk or some window looking, paying attention to what she's doing, and you catch her, her physique, her backside, and she don't know what's going on, you could squirrel her. You know, if you got your kit, you pull out your kit, get you some lotion, boom, peek around the corner, handle your business, and then it was like part of your kit was a little piece of tissue. They would keep tissue folded up. That was to ejaculate in, and so after you ejaculate, the tissue, it was almost like it was like evidence, but it was like the calling card, right? So we're gonna say if a guy didn't like an officer, a female officer, or something more, because understand this was a game to a lot of people. Uh, People weren't even going to jail or getting free world charges before what I'm speaking of, but it became so bad they started taking people to court, giving them free world charges, and making them have to register to be sex offenders, right? So if you catch a female guard slipping and you get off and skeet in your rag, you know, you might walk by her with your rag thrown up and throwing in the garbage can and tell her like, appreciate it, and throw the garbage and throw your throwaway away. And she'll be looking like, appreciate it. What you mean? Thank you. Oh, don't worry about it. Appreciate it though. Or that's that. So that's how it would go down. That means you done squirreled it. You done got over. Most officers were hip to it. You got to be real bold to do that because you really just telling her, I just jacked off on you. And even if she didn't catch you that time, the next time you try something, the next time she's in your vicinity, she gonna be aware of you. So that's a real bold move to go up and congratulate her. But guys did it. If something happened, you throw the tissue out on the range or any old thing. It was disgusting, man. So, but it was definitely a sport, right? People used to do it. Some guys wake up just to jack. You know what I mean? I forgot they had a code for it, but I remember it momentarily. But some guys wake up just to jack. Their whole activity schedule, when you get there, you get an activity schedule, meaning either you're gonna go to school, you're gonna go to detail, just basically telling you what you're doing for the time you there. It's nothing special at all. But some guys they would enroll in GED program because they would send real teachers to the prison to help teach the guys. So you got guys that don't care about education. They are going to education just to catch the teachers. They might be under the table squirreling or any kind of old thing. One or two guys have relationships with teachers, but you got to be way, it was a different story back then, right? And so many officers, or like I said, I was probably so young, I wasn't hip to it, didn't know they had things going on, and just I didn't know. But the officers, the relationships, and bringing stuff in and things like that, it was real heavy. So I get down to 17, man. I see what's going on. My group is raising hell. They fighting. They doing this. We doing everything. Smoking, drug. We doing everything the grown people are doing. And actually, we had a worse reputation than some of the other units on the dorm. So I see the guys, what they doing. They jacking off. They squirreling officers. They doing what they do. And first it's disgusting to me, right? I'm just not used to it. But over time, you see that this is how you see everybody doing it, and they actually satisfying their urges. So before long, and then again, I'm 17 years old. So I have no brain capacity to make a good decision, right? So I want to try it. They doing this, they doing that. They would catch, they get excited when they say, Miss such coming down the hill. It's 3-4 guys lined up at the window, dicks in hand next to each other, masturbating, right? And nobody's offended. No, ain't nothing gay going on. It's gay as hell, but ain't nothing gay going on, and they handling their business, right? I decide I'm gonna try it. Now, what happens is, like I said, we were down in the open dorm in dorm 16, and you couldn't lock the doors. There was only 5 rooms, but inside the 5 rooms where it would be like 60 beds. So you couldn't lock the doors because we broke them. We broke the locks. So they could tell us to go in our rooms to go to our bunks. But as soon as the officer would leave, we would go back to regular scheduled program. They literally could not lock us down. And we had a couple of incidents where people were getting hurt and things were getting stolen and they weren't able to recover this and recover that. So administration decided that the juvenile part was worse than everybody else and we needed to be behind doors, locked doors. So they sent us to A unit. A unit is the unit that we come in when you get, when you're going through diagnostic. It's not a lot of space and they lock doors and it's very, very clean. All of the administrators, all of the inmates that work for administration lived in the A building. So if you had done 20, 25 years and you could be trusted to walk all over the camp, 9 times out of 10, you were in A building. If you were a short timer, you were in A building. If you were a warden assistant, you was in A building. So A building was like the good boy unit, right? So they put us in A unit in order to keep us behind doors that could lock, they could control us. And man, you talking about we literally went from, it was a party. I'm sorry, to coming from the county jail and being restricted to being down here. The only thing we were missing were girls. Man, we were doing everything, fighting, and it was just fun. You know, it was literally gladiator school. All we did was train, work out and train. So, man, one day I'm sitting up there bored, and I still remember her name. Her name is Maddox. Man, this was a white lady. I wasn't even attracted to white people, but this was before the white people started getting them asses, them butts, like Britney Spears and, you know, them nigger butts, right? Man, I'm sitting up there. You got this officer named Miss Maddox, man. She white. She got the blonde hair, but it's cut into a bob. Man, this lady is so pretty. She was gorgeous. All the officers on the camp were, you know, it was rumored that they all tried to get with her. She didn't deal with no officers. It was also rumored that she didn't. It was rumored that she wouldn't lock an inmate up. She wasn't hard to deal with. You know, she wasn't the police, put it like that. So, which meant she wouldn't tell on you if you could get away with something. If it wasn't too bad, you could get away with something, right? So I'm new to this jacking game. She come to A unit now. A unit, the way it's set up on the inside of a building to where, you know, it's the officer's booth is all glass and they kind of sit up in the middle and they can look down on it's 2 ranges. They can look down on both ranges to see what it's kind of hard to explain, but they can look down on both ranges to see what the inmates are doing. So she come and sit in a corner of the booth where it's all glass and cross her legs where everybody can't see her, but the guys on the ends of the halls could see her from an angle. So I don't know what it was that I was doing, but I think I had done actually, maybe I had done got off once or twice. Masturbated, jacked off a couple times, and squeezed off, and it was weird because even though like the lady wasn't looking at me, it was just the thought of a female, and your mind, your brain. That's why it'll go as far as you allow it to go, but it would allow us to receive. We would be we would get relief, right? It would actually work. You some kind of way you tricking your mind into think, you know what I mean? Anyway. So, man, she's sitting up there. She talking to the officer that's assigned to the booth. And when I come, for some reason, maybe I walked by the booth and saw her in there and decided I was going to do something. So when you decide you're gonna do something, you're gonna squirrel up. You know, I got to run around looking for lotion and looking for whatever we're using at the time. And I think that sends me from room to room because, you know, I definitely wasn't rich in there. I wasn't poor, but even when I had money, lotion wasn't something that I had to buy. I'm really light skinned. Lotion wasn't one of the things I had to buy, you know, for myself. So I would have to go get some lotion from somebody. And she probably saw me going from room to room, which is also a big no-no. You're only allowed to go in your room in prison, and then it's an in and it's an out. They might open the door for you later on. But it's definitely no in and no out. So she probably saw me going from room to room when we were supposed to be restricted to the day room, you know, somewhere where they can keep eye on us. And she probably had been looking at me and without me even knowing it. Keep in mind, I'm 17. And so, man, I find me a corner of the door where I can see her and, you know, she can see me, but I'm peeking. I got the door barely cracked, right? I'm peeking. And as I'm looking, I can almost see her whole silhouette. I can see her face and I can see her legs cross. And man, it's driving me crazy. I'm getting horny. So I get my kit. I decide I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Man, I get to doing it. I might have take 1 or 2 strokes. And, you know, I'm looking at her body from, you know, down to up. And when I go back up to look, we catch eye contact. Oh my goodness. You talking about a bad feeling? If there's ever been a feeling where you were in the middle of something and just instantly, you know, my dick went to 0. To my it was nothing. It went head. So I'm looking at her. We looking at each other, but I'm like, oh shit, my heart is thumping. I'm terrified, and I'm trying to pull the door up, and you know, because I had already been looking through a space like this. So now I'm trying to pull the door up, you know, real close. But I notice even as I'm pulling the door up, she is staring right in my face, right? And the problem is I can't get a diversion. We used to use that a lot in prison. If someone did something, we could run around, you know, a couple guys run this way, a couple guys run that way. Everybody got on white suits. And unless you're totally sure, then you're not gonna know who did what and what you're after. But most officers, if something happened, they're gonna pick somebody anyway, somebody going down, but it's still a chance for you. If I done something, they're gonna come pick somebody. There's a chance that I wag. Wag mean get away. You don't get hit with the consequences. It's a chance that I'll wag, right? So, like I said, man, we looking at each other. I'm hoping. I'm like, man, I heard, you know, she don't tell on people, but I'm scared. I'm nervous, and the way she's staring at me, I know that she's upset. And like I said, I can't create a diversion, which means I can't come out the room. I'm the only one in the room. I can't create a diversion, so I'm stuck. Like I literally have to stay in the room, right? And what she's done is she done called the code for someone to come down and get me, but she's sitting in the chair watching the room so that, because my thing is I'm watching her. As soon as she turn her head, I'm going to try to dip off and go to another room. Or if she make a move, I'm going to try to dip off and be like, you know, I was in here or I was asleep or whatever the case may be. Man, I think it was Officer Jackson came down there, cool dude. Yeah, man, what you got going on? Then, man, you know what it is, go on, pack it up. You know, I try to act surprised, pack it up for what? Man, that lady said she caught you down here pulling it. She down here, Jackson, go on, pack it up. I tried my best to try to bike it, to try to buck it or whatever, but it ain't going down. Ain't no bucking. She ain't going for it. She done caught me, right? I packed my stuff up, man. You gotta understand, man, that trip to the hole, you talking about a lonely walk time. I mean, this so depressing. I you know, just thinking about it, man, Oh man, it almost put me in a different mind state. But prison is ran with it. It's actually a community inside of a community. I mean, it's a community of itself, and it's ran just like out here. So when you go to the hole, it's like going to jail. When you go to jail, you got the right to a 72-hour hearing. That would be like going to magistrate court. And your 72-hour hearing, they're gonna decide if the charges are, if it's bull or if it's something that should be sent over to court, right? If if at the hearing they decide that the charges are bogus, they got the power to throw it out, send you back to your dorm. That happens about as often as it happened out here. It's very rare. Or they can bound you over to court, right, and say, okay, you got to see the judge about this. Our judge was Lieutenant Scott. Now, if you get bound over to see Lieutenant Scott, her caseload is already backed up, just like it would be in the free world. So they can either let you stay in segregation until your hearing come, or, we used to call it make bond. They can let you make bond. They'll say you can go back, just stay out of trouble. Your court date is in a month. A lot of us, it depends on how much space was in the hole or whatever. Some people would go and catch a charge, and then you could come back, but knowing you had a court date coming up, and at your court date, you can still be sentenced and go to the hole. Man, I did not get the opportunity when I got my charge. There was no bond. They decided that I needed to sit in the hole, and the main reason was because they had space. If they don't have no space and people are in and out, then that's one thing. But if they have space and they can just sit you up and hide you, oh my goodness, man, I'm sitting over there in the hole, and it's bad. It's bad. It's real bad because I don't have a lot of property, and it's just 24 hours. You don't. So rec is. Your recreation is 1 hour a day in a cage about the size of one of those chain link dog kennels, something like 10 by 6, right? It's not like the dog cage, just the actual dog cage. That's what they put you in. And you stay out there for about an hour. It's about 10 or 15 lined up, and you in there with other guys. So when you go out there, you can see the guys that have been screaming, been talking to these folk. Dunlap been talking to Lil E. You can see, okay, that's Dunlap, that's Lil E. You can see who been talking to who doing what. But that was all you get. You could, you stand inside that little cage, and then it was isolated, so you can't see what's going on the campus. You can't see anything but these other guys that you in trouble with. You stay out there for an hour, and then you come back in handcuffs. Believe it or not, that wasn't so bad. With all the screaming on the range and stuff going on, you could tune in to what other people were talking about, other people's stories. Other people get bored and sing at night. And though it sounds crazy, we used to listen to it. If a person could sing and he knew the song, if he started singing, the range would get quiet, just because it sound good and people actually want to hear the song and stuff like this. They might actually even request it, right? Man, I stay in there about 3 weeks until my hearing coming up, and I'm already scared because Lieutenant Scott don't let nobody go. Everybody's guilty. Man, I go in there and I tell her my spiel and tell her that, I had never done this before, and she mistaken me. I wasn't doing this and I wasn't doing that, but it's hard to get around that peeking, right? Peeking through the door. Man, she give me 14, 90. What does that mean? That means 14 days in isolation. That don't count the time that I've already been in here. 90. That's 90-day store restriction, 90-day phone restriction. That means for 90 days, I can't use the blue phone that the prison has provided for us to call homes. Cell phones weren't even a thing yet. They weren't even a thing on the street. Definitely weren't one in prison, right? And if it was brand new. The store restriction mean I can't go to the store for 90 days. Most time that wasn't no big thing because a lot of us just hustled and lived off the land. We shot dice, we robbed people, and we also extorted. If you came in and you was weak as hell and you needed protection, we ain't call it that, but we just say, listen, Put your stuff in my box. Ain't nobody going in my box. And then we just eat out the box together. But it's definitely my stuff. It's really more my stuff than it is yours. So store restriction wasn't that big of a thing, right? We ain't really worry about that. Man, I'm sitting up there in isolation, dog. Now, I done went from a range that has people yelling, screaming, arguing, doing this, doing that. They throwing, we used to call them fishing. We used to go fishing, your fishing line. If I needed to get something somewhere else, some kind of way, and then in the hole is bars. So you can stick your whole hand out the door. If you rip up your sheet or something, tie something to one end, something heavy to one end of it. It ain't got to be heavy. It could be something like this top. If I got to get way down the line, I could whirl it around and throw it down the range. And then even if I don't get it, if I'm good at it, someone halfway down the range might grab it, throw it down 2 more cells, let it get what it need or whatever. Before long, man, people were master fishermen. They could fish something from the bottom of this cell all the way to the top of the top range cell and have, send food, send cigarette items, send a wick, which is a fire, like a lighter. Man, people were master fishermen, right? Orderlies coming in and out of the cells. They cut people's hair. They transfer. Hey, man, take this to my homeboy. Hey, man, go get this from my homeboy. Bro, go get the phone for me. Let me get an extra tray. It's just a lot of traffic. Even though there's nothing going on, it seems like a lot of traffic. Man, when she sent me to isolation, they took all my property and put me in a cell up on the range, H range. Man, when I went to H range, I might have been the 3rd person there. You talking about 24 cells going straight down at the top of the building. It is quiet. I can hear like little screaming and echoes from people from other ranges, but that's about it. No one on my range is talking. There's only 3 people. It's like I'm in cell 6. The next guy's in cell 15. And then the last guy's in the last cell in 22. We don't know each other, so we not talking. And it is, it is torture. It's torture on the mind. Mentally it's torture, right? So we sitting up there, man. I'm just sitting up there. You just, even though you don't have a clock, right? You time the days by your meals. This is what I was doing anyway. And I know I'm not the only person doing that. You say I got 14 days. During the week, we get 3 meals. And on the weekends, we get 2 meals. So you say I got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I got to eat 15 times in here. That's 5 days, 15, 30. And then, right, so that's how I'm saying, okay, I got to have 30 meals in here. I got to have 4 weekend meals in here. So every time you eat a meal, it's kind of like checking some time off. But the meals come so early, your breakfast might come anywhere from 4 to 6 in the morning, anywhere from 3 to 6 in the morning. So they wake you up. They wake you up out of the sleep, and that's precious time. And then the lunch come at around anywhere from 10 o'clock to 12, right? And then right behind that, we're going to say around 2 or 3 o'clock. They try to feed dinner before the second shift come on. Second shift come on at 2 o'clock. So they then gave us dinner at 2 or 3 o'clock. Now from 3 o'clock to 3 or 4 in the morning, you are starving again because there's no good food. And they're gonna shake the spoon on you, meaning you're not gonna get a lot. So you're already starving. And then when you waiting on this next meal to come, when that next meal come, it kind of signifies, a day down or a step in the right direction. Man, you talking about torture, man. I can remember up there being hungry. Most times people go to the hole and lose anywhere between 10 and 15 pounds because you don't have the commissary to maintain your weight and you're not working out like you normally would. Man, I'm sitting up there, you talking about hell, man, every day, dragging by. There's no one to talk to. There's nothing to read. I can actually remember, you know, if you look at a wall, the walls are made of brick, so it's just like brick, next to each other, just brick. I literally remember counting every brick that made up my cell. Done that about 4 or 5 times. I mean, you try to find anything that would occupy any kind of time. I remember counting the lines between the bricks to see how many lines were in between the bricks. You start praying for early release. Every time an officer comes, you got a question for them. Any mail today, anything happening, anybody get locked up, this, that. It's to the point where they'll start ignoring you because every time they see you, because they're the only living thing that you've seen in time, in 2 days, 3 days since this morning. So you ask them stuff and they, I gotta go over here, man. I'll be back. I got you. You're never gonna get the phone or a phone call and this kind of stuff, right? Not in isolation. And man, this time is dragging by. I can hear when they go to the yard and they out there screaming, man, it sounds like the free world, not like prison. It sounds like people are in the free world at the park. It sounds like they having the time of their life, which it probably was just a normal day as before, like it was before I left and it came to isolation. But man, they sound so free and so happy. I'm begging, I'm praying that they'll, because sometimes they let y'all early. If you got 14 days, you might do 8 days. You might do 9 days. You might do 10 days. Or if it's Friday and the moving list come, you're supposed to be moving Monday, you might be on the Friday list. Anything. No luck. Not now, Toe. I did the whole 14 days. Oh my goodness, I'm talking about dragged. Man, when they came and got me and put me back where I was supposed to be, man, I think it was a while before I would even masturbate from, because the normal thing is to get a sex book. I think it was a while before I would even get a sex book and touch it and try it. And then not only that, it puts a reputation on you, you know, and then I'm with the officers, I ain't want to be saw like that. They'll label you like as a jacker. And it's kind of disgusting. Like, oh, I don't like him. Get away from him. He a jacker. He this, he that. So I didn't want that attached to my name. Man, that was my first and last time. I think it was called a B12, B11, something like a B11. I think it was a B11. That's my first and last time with a B11. And like I said, not long after that, they started giving guys free world charges. I was in Rivers with at least 5 guys who caught free world charges for masturbation, and they had to go and register to be sex offenders. One guy actually got out and failed to register as a sex offender and ended up coming back to prison because he got labeled, because he got put as a sex offender in prison. So, you know, it's almost like when you home, you want to forget everything. You know, that was prison life. But it didn't go like that. You know, if you get labeled as a sex offender out there, you have to register out here and you're a sex offender for life, right? So I stopped doing that, man. I never took it personally against Miss Maddox. I actually heard she had a kid by a guy named Trussell in there, a guy from New York. I'm sure that's, you know, long gone, and all this stuff is too long to try to put a hold on at this point. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to share that, man. And y'all stay out of trouble, stay free. You won't have to go through that. Shout out to Bill Feasy. Shout out to Joe Baker. I'll see y'all later.
I had some niggas I look up to try to put their feet on my neck, man. You know what I'm saying? And we supposed to been working together.
Go crazy, AG.
You know what I'm saying? How you hate on my come up? You know what I'm saying? Box me out. Can't box a real now, nigga. This shit gon' still happen. I always been a underdog. My pockets on mainstream. I never made one call. I bless you for trying.